Hello, so this is Unit 17. This is the last unit in which we're going to have new material. I'll be discussing sort of doing some review stuff in another lecture, but this is the last lecture that's going to have any new material at all, and it doesn't have a whole lot of new material. I'll be discussing a particular construction in English, the no F is G unless it is H construction, and then in the other video lecture, I will talk about using the derivation module to help construct models to show that arguments are invalid, and it can be a handy way to do that. So we'll see how that works in the next lecture, or next video. Okay, so no F is G unless it's H. So we're going to start with a little bit of a review of some symbolization stuff that you're more familiar with. So we have the sentence, no athlete is lazy and successful. That's equivalent to saying every athlete isn't both lazy and successful. So if we wanted to symbolize the first, we'd say not some x, fx, and gx and hx. And if we wanted to symbolize the second, we would say for all x of fx, then not gx and hx. And of course, these two sentences are equivalent. Now, I want to point out here that in this symbolization, it's a no. It's a no, it's the universal version of the no. And in this case, it's clear that the negation goes on the whole verb phrase. It doesn't go on parts of it. It attaches to the whole thing. It doesn't attach to the gx, it doesn't attach to the hx. The verb phrase is lazy and successful, and that whole thing is what the negation attaches to. And the same thing, although it's not maybe quite as obvious, is happening in this sentence. We have fx, and then we also have gx and hx. And we say, is there a thing that has the property of the noun phrase and also has the entire property of the verb phrase? No. And because we're denying that nothing has that complete property, we negate the whole thing. We put a negation on the existential. So again, in both of these, we're effectively denying that the entire verb phrase applies to the F's. Okay, so that's how standard no symbolization works. Now, let's look at a no unless sentence. So no athlete is great unless she is strong. So if we were to use our standard determiner phrase, verb phrase method, we'd say, okay, this is the determiner phrase is no F, no athlete. Verb phrase would be is great unless she is strong, so is G unless is H. And unless is a synonym of or, and so we'd say no x, fx, and gx or hx. Okay, so what do we think about the symbolization, this sentence, the no x, fx, and gx or hx? Is that a good symbolization of this sentence? Well, since I'm going on about it, you can guess that it's not. In fact, this is a bad symbolization of the sentence. Why? So think about what this symbolization says. The symbolization says, is there a thing that is an athlete and either great or strong? No. Well, so are there any strong athletes? No, because if you're a strong athlete, then you're fx and you're also strong and therefore great or strong. So, and our symbolization says there's nothing like that, and so there are no strong athletes. And the same thing with greatness. If you're a great athlete, then you're great or strong, so you're both an athlete and great or strong, and the symbolization says no such thing. So the symbolization says, among other things, there are no great athletes. But does no athlete is great unless she is strong say that? Does it say there are no great athletes? It certainly does not say that. The original sentence says, yeah, no problem, there can be great athletes, just they got to be strong. So the symbolization says no athlete is either great or strong, and that rules out great athletes. But no athlete is great unless she is strong does not rule out great athletes. So in this case, the unless is not working as a normal or. Let's look at the universal symbolization approach. So we'd say the determinative phrase is every athlete. We'd take the verb phrase great unless she's strong and then deny that. So we'd have for all x, if fx then not gx or hx, and this has the same problem. It entails that there are no great athletes. Okay, so our standard no symbolization does not work for no f is g unless it's h. So what should we do instead? Well, here are a couple of examples. Suppose you're an athlete. Well, that means that if you're great, also you're strong. So for all x, if fx then if gx, then hx. Or suppose you're an athlete. Well, if you're not, there are two ways you can be. You can either be not great or you can be strong. So for all x, if fx, then not gx or hx. These two are equivalent. CDJ in there tells us that not gx or hx is equivalent to if gx, then hx, and the rest of the symbolizations are the same. And we can also symbolize this with a negated existential. So what this rules out, so no athlete is great unless she is strong, that rules out that there are athletes that are, there's something that's an athlete and great and not strong. So no x, fx, and gx, and not hx. So those are all equivalent symbolizations. They're all acceptable. What's going on here? Well, so in a normal no f is g sentence, we deny that the whole verb phrase applies to the f's. So we say that we take the verb phrase g, and we say it, however complex it is, does not apply to any of the f's. That's not what happens in a no f is g unless it is h sentence. We don't deny g or h of the f's, it's just the g. So the no doesn't hook onto the whole verb phrase, it hooks on only to the first part of it, the g part. And we're not denying g of everything, of all the f's, we're denying it of the non-h ones. So we say, find the group of the things that are both f and not h, they're not g. So is there a thing that is f and not g, and also, so f and not h, that's the group, that is not g? No, there's no such, or there is g, there's no such thing. What the unless is doing, part of it is that it takes the negation and it moves it from having scope over the whole verb phrase, g and h, g or h, to just part of the verb phrase, g. And then the unless says, and by the way, it's not the whole, the f's that are being, that's being held true of the not g, it's a smaller group, the f's that are not h. So our symbolization needs to reflect this fact about how unless works. Now, we're not going to get more into how unless works than that. I just wanted to show you that there are some sort of interesting constructions in English and that our symbolic language can capture some of them. So what you need to remember for your homework is this. When you see a no f is g unless it's h, there are two obvious options you have for symbolizations. For all x, if fx, then either not gx or hx, or not some x, fx, and gx, and not hx. They're equivalent, either is acceptable. So that's sort of for your homework, that's what you need to know about no f is g unless it is h. So that's the end of this video. Good luck with your symbolizing, and in the next video I will show you a different way to come up with models to show that arguments are invalid.